Hello and welcome to the MLB DFS Slate breakdown for July 7th. We are back. We're at it again. Let's win some money. Before we do, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to all our videos. Helps me out, helps us as a team out big time. Lets us know if you like it or not. It also feeds that YouTube algo and gives us the ability to keep giving this out for free. So now, let's get into the fun here. Also, if you have not already, come join LineStar. $29.99 gets you access to everything we do. If you want to, little trial. Also, we are doing a 3 free day trial on either of the app stores. Download the app, LineStar app, and you can access that 3 free day trial only on the apps. All right, so now today what we're going to go over is we're going to go over a quick rundown of yesterday's slate, and then we are going to go into pitcher ownership, and from there into the stacks. So the perfect lineup yesterday on FanDuel, we got Kodai Senga as the pitcher, which is kind of surprising because Pablo Lopez did score more points, but this lineup allowed us to get all the hitters that went totally nuts or were really good values here. So 3,500 or 35,000 got us 314 points in the perfect lineup. Now the winning lineup, way far away, 246.1, which I think it won by like 3 points or so. Now this lineup, we got Lopez as the winner. He scored the most points as pitcher and was highest owned, so no surprise there. And then we had a 3-man Cincy stack, and Cincinnati just went nuts as they keep continuing to do. And then we had all one-offs from there on out. So nice work, go nuts. To 2014, you won. Congrats. Now let's check out the DraftKings perfect lineup. And we got Dean Kremer, Pablo Lopez, a 3-man Cincy stack. And let's check to see what the winner has. Mr. Good Seats with the win, won by 7 points. He got Seth Lugo and Lopez, so the 2 chalk pitchers. But then he got kind of contrarian with a 5-man Cincy stack. Was able to get it done here. And then 2-man Twins stack with a one-off. And, that was enough to get it done. Once again, it's that 5-2-1 DraftKings lineup that did it. It did the trick. He easily could have had somebody else here at shortstop, as there was only a 3 points. 3-point game for the Pirate shortstop there, but was enough to get it done as they won by 7. Now let's get into the fun. Let's get into today's pitcher ownership and head straight to a little bit of the overview. Weather-wise, the one game we need to watch is this Cleveland and Kansas City game. There are some storms around Cleveland, but it's still too early to tell, 4 hours before first pitch. So make sure that you watch kind of this game and what the weather looks like. If there's an in-game delay, you may want to consider fading the pitchers. All right, now let's get into it. So highest owned pitcher, Kyle Bradish, who's been just excellent lately, 3.09 FIP, 28% K rate, much better than his last 20 start numbers with 3.5 FIP, 22% K rate. So his K rate is up. Now, Bradish was a fairly highly touted prospect. Maybe he's kind of figuring out. He was a guy, in years prior that we wanted to pick on. I loved picking on him last year. Last year, he did have some real bad games, but had some real good games. But maybe he's kind of figuring it out, and he's developed a little bit of consistency here. Because he's been really good lately. The only thing that would make me want to fade him would be this BVP data where he's just frankly been bad against New York. Now, he had one start versus him this year. That was earlier in the year when he wasn't pitching quite as well. Went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned, only had 3 Ks. And then last year when we were kind of picking on him, he didn't have great starts versus them either. So far he hasn't done great. However, understand that these all were likely with Judge, and this offense as a whole is way, way worse without Judge. All right, so next we got Tanner Beebe. So my one thing I have to say here is pay attention to the weather. Beebe is very high owned. This ownership may be severely lower if it looks like there's some weather issues, and there is a real, a decent chance of at least an in-game delay, which could make his start a little shorter than it would be. Beebe is highly touted prospect. He's been good so far, 3.46 FIP, 26% K rate. His last 5 starts have been a little bit rockier, but still he's been solid. And his last 2 in particular were very good. So I don't mind Beebe. The Royals aren't a great offense against righties. Solid combined K rate. My worry here is the weather. Just pay attention to it. Next, Nathan Eovaldi. Look, this guy has been great this year, although he struggled a little over the last 5. And we have really good hitting weather here in Boston today. Winds are blowing out. It's going to be warm, mid-80s to start the game. Boston striking out at 23%. Good umpire, but they also do hit righties well. And the last 5 starts haven't gone quite Eovaldi's way, 4.72 FIP. And also, he can be consistent in that Boston stadium. He was inconsistent as a Red Sox pitcher. Now he's going back to that stadium, so it'll be interesting to see how he handles it. 23% K rate is a little low. Combined K rate is a little low for what I like to see out of a 10K pitcher. Nonetheless, though, projection solid, and Eovaldi's been great this year. Julio Urias is next. Look, Urias has been way, way better at home. 42% more fantasy points at home. Now, this is only his second start after coming off the IL. His first one did not go the way that he expected. 3 innings, 66 pitches, 5 earned runs, only 2 Ks. And that was against Kansas City, but at Kansas City, as we talked about, he is better at home. But he hasn't been great this year. 4.87 FIP over his last 20 starts, FIP of 6 over his last 5 starts. Pittsburgh striking out almost 33% versus lefties. So I think you have to consider Urias here. We know he's a good pitcher. He has been good for years now, but he has been struggling a little bit lately and still just off the IL. So a lot of things to consider, when you're taking Urias today. Ronel Blanco. So it looks like he will be the pitcher. However, it's not officially announced. Thus, we don't have the stats for him yet. We are waiting for that official. And then we got George Kirby here against the Astros. Astros have started hitting a little bit, but Kirby has been really good all year. Was really good last year. Low 3s FIP. Kind of a low 21% K rate, 23% over his last 5. Combined K rate only 20%. At his price, may not be enough, but this guy's floor is fairly solid. However, he is averaging 40% less fantasy points away. I've talked about this, over the last 2 years quite a lot. Kirby doesn't have the same strikeout stuff when he is away as he is home. He averages almost a full strikeout per 9 more when he's at home. So that is one thing to consider, but he is a very good pitcher. Once we get to this kind of lower level, the one guy I wanted to bring out was Luis Severino. Look, we know he can pitch. He has been terrible so far this year. 6.35 FIP over his last 5. Pretty low K rate. Walking a ton of batters. The one thing is he's averaging 50% more fantasy points at home. His home starts have been decent. Most of his bad starts, or pretty much all of his bad starts, have been away. So that is one thing to consider. And look, he faced a Texas offense. It's good at home, did well. White Sox offense at home did okay. San Diego offense at home did well. So he is better at home. And we know he's a good pitcher, but he's just super cheap. And that's really the only reason I'm considering him, is because this is a guy that, just a little bit ago was 9-10K and now he's under 7. So I think it's something you have to consider. Don't love it, but, it's interesting. So, all right, now let's get into the FanDuel slate. It's only 7 games. We don't have to go through every pitcher. FanDuel, Tanner Beebe, big time highest owned, 44%. Bradish next at 24%. Don't mind him. Blanco at 14%. I think is a little high, but we do know the Mariners strike out a decent amount. And Blanco, he's been striking out right around 1 batter an inning, so decent strikeout rate so far. So we'll see once that becomes official. We'll get you that data, but he's not a terrible option. Evaldi coming in 8%. He's one of the best pitchers on the slate with George Kirby and Urias here. So Urias on FanDuel I think is very interesting. He's cheap, and we know he's a good pitcher. Pittsburgh strikes out a lot to lefties. This is a very interesting kind of pivot from me that I will be heavily considering. I mean, you're paying the same for him as your Kyle Bradish, pretty much. And, Bradish has 12 times the ownership. Doesn't totally make sense to me that Bradish is that much more owned. So he is very interesting there. All right, now let's get into some stacks. All right, highest owned is Cleveland going against Lyles once again. Now, I much rather stack Cleveland than use their pitchers with the potential rain issues, but you do have to watch the weather for hitters too, as we saw yesterday with that Chicago White Sox and Toronto game get postponed because storms popping up all over the place. It is that time. It's July. August can get a little bit worse with that, but we definitely need to be paying attention to the weather in that game. So they're the highest owned. Texas is next. I think Texas is in a really good spot today. I don't really like Cutter Crawford as a pitcher, and Texas's offense just keeps producing. Seattle's popping up a little bit, but we don't have much data, so that could change. Dodgers. I think Dodgers are very interesting today versus Johan Ovidio. He's okay. His FIP is much lower than his ERA, so maybe he has been getting a little bit unlucky, but this Dodger team can just hit. So I think you got to consider that. Mets going kind of low owned for one of the highest implied totals on the slate, as well as Diamondbacks. I think both you have to consider. Now, our highest projected is the Rangers. No surprise to me. I think they're in a great spot to hit and to hit a lot today. Diamondbacks next, Dodgers, Houston versus Kirby. I have a hard time going against Kirby. Rangers are in a good spot. Mets are in a good spot. Red Sox versus Evaldi, but he can get blown up and he can give up home runs. So I think it's kind of interesting to go there. Nobody's doing it on, this small of a slate either. So that's probably your best leverage stack is Boston there. All right. Now let's get into the value guys. Value, Pittsburgh's popping up. Urias, as we talked about, hasn't been good lately. So you have to consider kind of some value with Pittsburgh. Royals is leverage all over it just because Tanner Beebe is so high owned. That's the whole reason it makes it interesting. Beebe hasn't really got blown up yet, but it can happen to anyone. Just, again, watch the weather for that one. Seattle coming in a little bit as a value stack too, which is interesting. A lot of really good hitters here for fairly cheap to be considered value. And ceiling, Houston. Houston has the ceiling. We know they do. They've been hitting lately. George Kirby may not be the one to let that happen, though. But, I mean, it's baseball. Literally anything can happen on a given day. So I think it's interesting. Mets, Boston all coming in. Rangers coming in as well. So we got a pretty fun slate here. Definitely the ones to pick on bullpen-wise are KC with the Cleveland stack. Boston, you can pick on that Texas bullpen, especially if Evaldi gives up a couple home runs and exits a little early here. So highest implied total, Diamondbacks, Rangers, Cleveland, Dodgers. Gotta say that I like all of those. And then this Dodger or Pittsburgh stack is interesting. It is the lowest implied total, but like we said, Urias hasn't been great lately. If he gets blown up and then you get into that Dodger bullpen early, that Pittsburgh stack could be good. It's going to be totally low owned. So interesting stuff there. All right, guys, a lot of different ways you can go. Some different pitchers you can use. Have a good one. We will be back tomorrow. Let's win some money. Adios.